No longer a TB patient, right? But there are a lot of yay. That's such a big deal, to be honest. I just realized I said that in passing. I'm no longer a TB patient, to the glory of God. Hi, healing is a journey. It's not a straight road, right? Today I want to talk about battling with pulmonary tuberculosis, anxiety disorder, and secondary complications that came with having TB in the first place. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Dami Adejoro. It's nice to have you tuning in to watch this. You know, I'm new here, so I'm really glad that you clicked on this video to watch. In this video, I want to share my story on how I battled with pulmonary tuberculosis, how it started, its effects on my body and mind, the misdiagnosis, the treatments, and ultimately how God saved me. First thing I want to start with is TB is not by shaking hands. It's not by sharing someone's spoon. It is an airborne disease. So please, let's not create stigma where there shouldn't be any, please. Do you know that tuberculosis affects 1/4 of the world's population? That's billions of people. In fact, according to WHO, I think it was in 2018 study, they found out that about 10 million people were diagnosed with TB, but they were only able to get to 7 million people. That leaves 3 million gap. Why is this important? You'll find out. TB is in two types. Tuberculosis is majorly a particular bacterium. I think it's called microbacterium. I will search and insert it to find the correct word. Right. So as I'm saying, it is in two types. It is latent or it is active. Please, this is not medical study. This is not a medical information. This is just sharing from what I had gone through. So for the latent TB, this is when someone has inhaled the TB bacteria, but they do not feel sick. They're not experiencing any symptoms because their immune system is strong enough to fight it. Do you see? For the active TB, this is where it becomes active. This person inhales it. Their immune system is not strong enough to fight it, and then it multiplies, and then you eventually see the symptoms. Different things could trigger. People with HIV could get, because their immune system is already weak, so that could trigger it. Diabetes, malnutrition. Now let's talk about how it spreads. TB is spread through the air. It's an airborne disease. Hello, it's an airborne disease. So it means someone coughs, someone sneezes, someone spits, someone even talks, and then droplets are released into the air, and then you inhale it, and then it goes in. Now, when you inhale it, the two types I talked about is what determines if you have it or if you don't. So this says that there are a lot of people out there with TB, but their immune system is strong enough to fight it. So let's say some people go on all this long fasting, meaning they're not eating. That could trigger it. And there are some people that immediately they inhale it, the work starts. Now, contrary to what people say, TB is not spread by shaking of hands, by touching surfaces, by sharing spoon with someone. So please, let's not create a stigma where there shouldn't be anyone. Let's not do that. Okay? All right. Let's get right into the story. It first started in July of 2022. At least that was when I first observed anything. I know that I had a friend stay with me for a couple of weeks before, and she was coughing. My daughter was coughing as well. I just thought it was flu, and I didn't just think. We actually ran tests, and it was nothing to worry about, right? They cancelled out TB, in fact, because my friend had been coughing for almost a week, so it was important that they did that. One thing I found out is that once your cough is more than 3 days, going to a week, there is a problem. Go and check it out. And so we did check it out. It was just flu. They were on medications, and I know playfully I was telling them that, you guys, I don't want to cough. This one that two of you are coughing, my daughter is coughing, my friend is coughing. Can you please not let it get to me? And we all joked about it. They both had stopped coughing when I picked mine. And I remember clearly it was in July. I started to cough first day, second day went, third day, and it was just, this cough that, you feel it's still flu, it's just uncomfortable. And trust Google to expand it for you. I went to TB, I'm like, no more Google, let's close it. That's it. I just left it. But I didn't do anything about it until I realized that I'd been coughing for about 2 weeks. And so I called my mom. Mom, this is what's happening, yada yada yada. And she was like, what? Please come home. Let's see the family doctor. My mom. It was later I realized that she was actually really scared when I called her. So I have a sister that died of TB, and so it's a very sensitive topic in my family. So anything cough, my mommy doesn't want to hear it, right? And so I went home, I went to see the doctor. We did a series of tests, x-rays, on and on, blood tests. Everything all came out TB negative. And I remember asking the doctor, because he was worried that if you have been coughing for 2 weeks, is either of these things, TB number 1, that's serious. So how come we are doing all the tests, they're not showing? At the same time, I wasn't getting better. The cough was not subsiding. So I remember he just placed me, I can't remember the name of the medication now. I was just on that medication. Do you know the weird part? The cough will stop for like a week or two. Before you know it again, the next week it starts. I'll pick up the medication again, I use it, it will stop. So I remember he told me that even when the cough stops, don't stop using that medication, just keep using it. But it didn't make sense to me. What kind of cough is this one? That is right. So I called my doctor because I am someone who has had health challenge for years. I remember when I was in school, people thought I was SS. So I have had a doctor that's seen me through different diagnoses. I said that so you will not understand why I called another doctor. So I called him because he's now out of the country. And I spoke to him that this is what's going on. And he was like, I think you should go to General Hospital. And he suggested General Hospital because the family doctor had been saying, said it wasn't TB. I was still coughing. And he was already suggesting COPD. COPD is something called chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. And this COPD is something that they said for people that smoke, people that maybe cook and cooking with firewood, those things that inhale a lot of smoke, or grilling, things like that. And this is not something I do. I don't grill. And said, okay, secondary smokers can also be affected, meaning that you live with people that smoked actively for years. Oh my goodness. That made a lot of sense to me because I lived with people that smoked for about 4 years, if not more. And so I'm like, oh my God. So just living with people that smoke has gotten me to this place. But when I talked to my doctor, he was like, no, he doesn't think it's COPD. He thinks I need to go and see a specialist of the chest, somebody to examine the area, let's see what's going on. Go to a general hospital. And by this time, it was September. I remember clearly that I went to register at a teaching hospital where I live. I went with a friend because at this point in time, I was beginning to lose weight. So I started to experience weight loss. I started to experience loss of appetite. I think I started to experience night sweats, but it was subtle. Like at night, I just wake up, I'm sweating. So I just assume, oh, the weather is hot. But of that, to be honest, but the active, obvious thing you could say was the loss of appetite and the weight loss. The weight loss was not at once, it was slowly. And being someone who I was always skinny, I've been skinny all my life. What you are seeing here is, we'll get to that in a bit. So I just felt, okay, this is not something out of the ordinary, especially with the fact that I've struggled with health issues for the most part of my life. So I'm used to losing weight, gaining it back, losing weight, gaining it back. And I think it's important to note that even while I was LD, my regular weight was between 45 to 50. 50, I can count how many times. If I do 50, it means that life is very good. I'm not going through anything, which is not many times possible. Life happens, right? So I went to the hospital, to the general hospital now, and I registered. And I remember the first doctor that saw me, he was like, why are you not on inhalers? Yes. At this point in time, so I had already started getting triggers. Dust triggers me, perfumes, strong smells. I can't go out if I don't use Uber or I'm not in a car that is wind up, because smoke from cars, the exhaust pipe really gets to me. So he was like, why did the doctor that saw you not put you on inhalers? I immediately told him that I am not asthmatic, because I assumed only asthmatic patients use inhalers. And he was like, no, you're already experiencing difficulty in breathing. By now, you should have been placed on inhalers. So he placed me on Ventolin and Seretide. Ventolin for when I'm struggling to breathe. Seretide was supposed to be a daily use. process started, and it went on and on, from x-rays to blood tests to sputum tests. It was one test after the other from September to November. I was back and forth every single week at the hospital. And one of the things that pissed me off this period was the fact that because it's a general hospital, it's a teaching one, every time you go, you have to speak to a new doctor, meaning that you are recounting from the very beginning up until that point. I go next week again, I'm recounting from the very beginning. So I got frustrated. I really got frustrated because all the results of the tests I was doing, they were inconclusive. I got frustrated because they were also misdiagnosing. They were telling me at some point that it was pneumonia. I'm like, how? From where to where? Why? What's going on? Imagine visiting the hospital for 3 months straight. You're very sick. We could see that you're very sick, but we don't know what's going on with you. At this point, I had some friends started to suggest that it was a spiritual problem. Well, the devil did what he did, because I like the fact that you could ask me that means what's going on, and I could not tell you for a fact that this is what's going on because I didn't know. And you would ask me, am I going to the hospital? And I'll be like, yes. So what are the doctors saying? I don't know. Let's not even talk about the financial strain. I spent money from that September because these tests are not cheap. I'm doing x-ray. At some point, I was asked to do a CT scan. You're spending hundreds of thousands week per week. And I bear in mind I wasn't eating at all. At this point, I could not eat everything. So my family members, my loved ones, were kind of angry with me because they felt like I wasn't even helping myself. Like, okay, you said you don't feel like eating, just try. But I couldn't eat. I feel like they all calmed down when they found out that it was TB. So all I could do was fluids, water. I had malt, packs of malt. Woo! God bless you, Mrs. Gloria. I had packs of malt in the house, which I barely could take. They'll make me pap. I even had to hire someone to help with cooking because I could not cook anymore. Anything that brings out smoke just really affects me. I was always on face mask. I didn't know what it was, but I was always on face mask because I knew I was coughing. And at this point in time, I was already coughing out phlegm. I'll cough out something greenish, sometimes yellowish. At some points, it increased to blood. So obviously that shows that my body was failing and I didn't know why, and I was bothered. And I remember one day I was talking to God that I know that I don't necessarily need a name to pray about this thing, but it is just weird that something is going on in my body and I do not know what is going on. Like, okay, if I'm even, let me tell people, pray for me, I'm very sick. What's happening? I don't know. I don't know why I was even so keen or wanting to put a name to it. But the unknown, the not knowing really messed up. To be honest, the not knowing really messed up in my mind. It really messed up in my mind. Let's even leave the fact that I was spending money. I had stopped working because at this point, I was already taking many off days. Please, can I go off? Please, I am not able to. My head bangs. I experienced serious migraines. I was always weak. I was coughing. I was struggling to breathe. It was terrible. So all of this happened September to November. And then I decided in November, I'm not going to the hospital again. You know what? There is really no point. I'm not saying anything gets better. Let me just stay. So I stayed at home. And at some point, I will look like I feel better. I remember one time in November, I went to church. My pastor saw me and she was like, oh my God, it's good to have you back. And then 2 weeks after again, people that saw me that said it's good to have you back are saying, Dami, what's happened? Are you sick again? So at some point I stopped going to church because, to be honest, I look fine this Sunday. Next Sunday I don't. And it was just, in fact, I had to start wearing big clothes. I was losing weight. For someone who weighed 45, you can imagine, I'm going to be putting pictures for you to see. You can imagine how much weight I had lost that would make it so visible for someone who was naturally a skinny person. And so I started to wear baggy stuff, big outfits, just to cover up all the weight. Someone who is skinny and bony, my body is overly conscious of my body, to be honest. And so I just stopped going to church because it wasn't even convenient to start with. Number one, I was spending extra. I can't use public transport. If I don't use Uber, I can't go out. So let's just stay at home. I'm no longer working. So when I know that, fast forward to Christmas season, I had been spending Christmas before then with my pastor's family. I'm very close with one of my pastor's mom, and so I spent Christmas at ours. And I remember I went there, and my pastor's wife, which is also my pastor, saw me and she was like, Dami, How are you? You don't look good. What's going on? And I remember I told her that, to be honest, at this point, I don't know. And I explained how I've been going to the hospital back and forth, and she was like, so she spoke to her husband, which is our pastor. That pastor, Dami, look at Dami. She has been sick for a while. And I remember Pastor looked at me and said, how long? And I said, 6 months. And he was like, what? Have you gone to the hospital though? I said, yes. He said, so what are they saying? I said, to be honest, everything is just inconclusive, but they are tilting towards COPD, like I told you earlier. And he said, well, we don't even need to know the name. Do you see? I wanted to know the name. The pastor said we don't need to know the name for us to say this thing should carry its legs and go. And I feel like at that point where he said we don't need to know the name, I got corrected, because before now, 5 months before now, I had been keen on wanting to know what this is. So immediately he said we don't need to know the name, I felt something change in my heart. Like, okay, I really don't need to know the name before I tell God or tell whoever the devil to pack his load and go. And he said, just let us pray. And as he started to pray, the first thing Pastor said was, cough ceases. Oh my God. Oh my God. You know how you know that God loves you, you know that God sees you, but somebody telling you something you didn't tell them. I didn't tell him I was coughing. He did not know. But someone telling you something like that makes you feel, even if there was a form of doubt inside of you, that God actually sees you. And as I heard cough ceases, I was so sure that this is the end. I was very sure, because it made me feel extra comforted. If I was feeling terrible before, I felt from doubt to hopeful. I was really hopeful, and it went on. It gave me so many spot on word of knowledge, and I was happy to run with it. I remember calling my friend at the time, that babe, come and hear, this is what Pastor had said. And she was happy. She encouraged me. Devil is a liar. Because tell me why a week after, my health literally went from, if it was on a 6 before, it went to 10. Things just got bad. At night, when I sleep and wake up, you would think I peed on my body. That's how much sweat, night sweat. I started to wake up with bloody mouth. I would wake up my own teeth. Like when I open my mouth, you could see blood. And I'm wondering, where did it come from? When my lips, all of this, like as I'm talking, I was putting the pictures. You will see my lip. You know how you have cracked lips? Mine is not cracked. It's like a sore, but not necessarily a sore, but it's just bloody. And I was just, oh my God, what's happening to me? God have mercy. It just didn't make sense to me. And remember, I told you my late sister died of TB. I didn't necessarily experience many of the things I experienced with her, so I wasn't fully aware. I remember, because she had TB, she did the whole 6 month medication thing. She got better and had a relapse. She died from the relapse. And I remember the relapse, we didn't see at all, because that was when I had my baby. And I remember I kept saying I wanted to go and see, and they were like, oh, it's not LD, it's infectious, especially now that I'm pregnant, I have a young child at hand, I cannot go and see her. So we didn't see. So I didn't know what she had gone through. So imagine going through all of this, and I'm like, I slept on Google. What else can you do? What's this? Yada yada yada. Just asking one question after the other. Hi, thank you so much for watching. So, because this is a journey that started in 2022 and it's a journey that is still being played out, I mean, I had an hospital appointment today. I have realized that this is not something that it can't fully fit into one video or even a few. So, moving forward, I'll be starting a series to take you through each phase one step at a time. And in case you're wondering, this video looks different from the one I just watched. Yes, that's correct. That's because the video you just watched was a one-time recorded video and will be splitted into 3. One you've seen, 2 more to come. After which, the series on my health journey, I mean, it's a lot to unpack, will fully be started. Thank you so much. Please do not forget to like, to subscribe, to leave a comment. And if you know someone going through one health challenge or the other, or they can just simply relate with all of this, please kindly share it with them. See you during the next episode. Bye.